You're listening to the Coop Homeschool Podcast.
This is your podcast for community, humility, and joyful fun in homeschooling. I'm Mandy.
I'm Jessica.
And this is
The Coop. Today we're talking about working moms.
Woohoo!
And we don't mean just working in the house. We mean moms who have to work outside the home and homeschool their kids.
Mm-hmm.
But they can do it too. It may not always be easy, but it can be done.
Yeah.
If you're wondering how, we share some tried and true advice on how to do it all.
Awesome.
Before we dive in, we have a shared scoop on the Coop. We did our Coopies Coop Group Mom Awards.
It was so much fun. We made these little chickens or roosters, and they are super cute wooden on little lids. And these were little trophies to give each of our Coop Group moms.
Yes.
About something from the year.
Yeah. So for some of the moms, we thought of something that we admire about them or that they bring to the group. And then for others, we found funny moments to highlight as special memories from the last year together.
Yeah. And some of them are super funny. Do I dare share?
Sure.
So we were at a playground where there was no bathroom, and a mom had to go really badly. And so she got the Pee in the Bushes award.
That's right.
That took bravery and confidence.
It sure did.
And she went and did it, and that got a big laugh, and
Right.
it was really fun. So
And we knew she'd be comfortable with it. We weren't trying to embarrass her, but it's a story she talks about. And so it was a fun moment to remember. And now she has an award that she'll always think of that moment.
Yeah. So we went to a brewery,
Mm-hmm.
and Jessica and I had already typed out one sentence basically, or two sentences for each person. So it literally only took about 6 minutes.
Yeah, it was short.
But because we had said that this award goes to the person, blah, blah. And then we handed it to them, and it was fun and community building.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone felt appreciated.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun for us anyway.
Yeah, it was.
All right, let's dive in. So, working moms. Having to work shouldn't be a barrier for parents to homeschool their children. Sometimes it just takes creative problem solving. There are situations, of course, where it just isn't possible, but we're going to go through all of our creative problem solving first and get to that at the end.
Cool.
So the first topic I have here is flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to have some flexibility if you need to be available to your kids, especially while they're young. So being able to set your own work schedule is one way to have this type of flexibility. If you're able to work evenings, early mornings, weekends, obviously it would be ideal to set your schedule around the times you would like to be available to your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you have somebody else to be available to your kids, working in those hours would be ideal.
Well, and I'm just going to interject here. I have a
Yeah.
friend who is a full-time teacher, but
Yes.
she has her prep periods as the afternoon.
Right.
And so she says she's home by 1 or 2 at the latest, and then she homeschools them. And her husband's home during the day working. And so there's some supervision during the day.
Right.
But that's how she set her own work schedule. Could still
awesome.
pursue her passion and her calling to be a traditional school teacher,
Yeah.
but worked with administrators.
I love that.
Yeah.
Work from home.
Mm-hmm.
Working from home is a super great way to be flexible. If you have to work traditional business hours, if you're at least at home, you know that the kids are safe within your being there and available to them. Hopefully, if you're working from home, you have a job that it won't be a detriment to your employment if you get interrupted occasionally. But I think there's ways to set boundaries with your kids, especially as they get older. Those first years are tough no matter what your situation is. But I think that there's ways to make that work. Some of it will depend on the behavior and temperament of the kids you have and your ability to be interrupted. You need to maybe set times that you are available to your kids. So if you know you get a 15-minute break, a 1-hour lunch, and another 15-minute break, make sure the kids know when that's going to be. Have timers, have clocks, or have a note somewhere that shows them when that's going to be, and have something scheduled for that time. What are you guys going to do together? Are you making lunch together? Are you learning together? Are you just being present in those moments?
I love that.
Set schedules for work, academics, independent time, meals. Yeah. So just find a way to make the schedule work for you and your kids. That's who matters.
Mm-hmm.
Homeschooling around the work schedule. Homeschool doesn't have to be between 8 and 2 p.m.
Right.
So throw that time window out. Use what's available to you. So if you need to homeschool in the afternoons or evenings or on the weekends, do that.
I mean, that's one of the biggest blessings we love about homeschooling. I don't even have a paying job.
Right.
And I still love being able to throw something in after dinner and do goal setting and a read aloud.
Exactly, because sometimes during the daytime, we spend time together, we go out with our friends, and while those have their benefits to our kids' lives, it may not be the academic goals we have set to achieve for that day. And so it doesn't matter when you do it. Sit down and do it when it works for you.
Yeah.
Enrichment classes and drop-offs. I think some homeschoolers have the misconception that they have to do everything on their own at home. And that's just not the case. There's a lot of enrichment centers, and I see more and more popping up that offer elective style classes in block schedules. So you can drop your kids off between 9 and 1, 9 and 2, and be able to know that they're being supervised and that they're getting quality instruction. Maybe not academics per se. You might not be touching on your core subjects. Maybe you are. But it just depends on the offering of any particular enrichment center.
Yeah, and the charter schools who offer the hybrid, the 2 days a week, then you have 2 full days a week or 3 days a week.
Right.
And other homeschool families, sometimes we love to have other people's kids with us. So if my kid is at an enrichment program from 9 to 1, and someone needs me to have their child from 1 to 3, and it's a favorite friend of ours, why wouldn't I do that?
Exactly.
And you never know who you can link up with, who's going to be going there anyways to pick that person up and take them to the beach or take them to lunch or bring them home and play until you're able to come get them.
Exactly. So these enrichment opportunities could include farm school and nature schools. There's even some co-ops. So check out your different co-op options in your area. Our particular co-op, what we call our Coop group, is not a drop-off. It is meant to be community, but we still have working moms in that, and we all find ways to make it work. And part of that is having the schedule. Right. We just had our planning meeting and set the entire co-op schedule for the whole year, so the working moms know how to arrange their schedules for those days.
And sometimes they're actually working while they're there. Yeah. They have their laptop open. They might get there an hour early if it's like at a playground.
Right. To take a call so they know that they're there when they need to be available on the phone.
Yeah, and they might just sit off to the side, but they're there. And then when it's time to hang out, they might close their laptop, and that's their lunch break.
And it doesn't bother a single one of us.
No.
That's the
We're
support
just glad
we all
they're
provide
there.
each other. Yes. And then, as I mentioned, those elective classes, or find interest-based classes. Maybe there's club opportunities they can go to. 4-H, for instance. There's different options that might provide drop-off opportunities where you can schedule work. The next category I have is support. This one seems to be the most important, whether you're a working parent or not. You need support system, especially in homeschooling. I know that homeschooling can be tough in some families. Some people are just very opposed to homeschooling, or they don't want it done for their kids or grandkids or nieces and nephews. It's fine for them, but they just don't support it in this instance, and that can be difficult. Obviously, your biggest support system is hopefully your spouse. If homeschooling is a priority to you both, it may be possible to set opposite working schedules. As you were saying with your friend who's a teacher, her husband is able to be home during the day. He's working, but he's home to supervise the children and make sure everyone is safe. And as the kids get older, all of that becomes so much easier.
Yeah, and they can play. It's good for them to learn to play without you. So they can figure out how to play and create art, and you can show them what's accessible to them, and they'll develop skills that they need in life without you. And because you're not there, they'll develop those things.
Absolutely. So rely on that spouse if you can. Set opposite working schedules. Family. Homeschooling is an amazing way to incorporate extended family into your lives. Use them for childcare or even for academics.
Yeah, well, and I know I was just talking with someone about a certain kind of curriculum that she loves, because she says when the grandparents are there for the day and she runs out and does errands and stuff, they can pick right up. There's no background knowledge they have to have. They can read the script and just continue them on their academic journey.
That's perfect.
Without a blip.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you have extended family that's willing to do that, that's an amazing opportunity. Multi-generational learning and experiences are so valuable.
Yeah. I mean, I have, if you get those subscription boxes and you have a grandparent or aunt and uncle or whoever that has a proclivity towards that subject, that I will bring the kit, for example, to my dad.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm going to be gone. This is a great thing you could do with him. And so my son gets a whole science lesson. I'm getting pictures and videos of how much fun they're having together. So it's enhancing their relationship because it's not just watching TV together or going to a movie. It's that the grandparent is actually getting to teach their grandchild.
It's a benefit to them both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aunts and uncles. When I work, my kids go to my sister-in-law's house, and so we call it Cousin Tuesday. And they all have a blast together. They're not opening their academic books necessarily. Some of the older kids, my nieces and nephews, do because they have a more rigorous schedule. They have a very full dance schedule. So if they don't do their schoolwork and touch on it every day, they will not reach their academic goals. I avoided saying falling behind.
Yeah, I was wondering. I was paying attention.
Yes. Reach their academic goals that they have worked to set for themselves.
Right.
You know, they are working on that, and I think that that's really important. But having that aunts and uncles, having that support system available is so valuable. So if you have that, are there ways to rely on that to allow you to continue working and homeschool your children?
And don't feel bad about it. Building those relationships is important for their emotional, social well-being.
Absolutely. And then there's friends. Like Mandy said, why wouldn't she pick up one of your kids after the enrichment program that they've just been at all day for a couple hours to let you finish work if it's a benefit to you both? You know, the relationships that our kids have, those social skills that they build in navigating their own friendships are invaluable to their futures as well.
Yeah.
It's a huge part of the learning that they do. It may not be academic always in nature, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's valuable to all of us. And so if you need to rely on friends, find one that might be willing to do that. I was thinking the same thing. I can't imagine not being available to a friend who's in a season of needing that.
Right. Yeah.
You know, every day might be a different
it's a bit
thing.
much,
But if there's a day, sure. Fridays are our friend days, and we're going to homeschool together. And I might actually say, okay, they need some independent work. Send them with something they can do, and I'll come up with something enriching that they can all do together.
Yeah. I mean, how many people are in traditional school and the parents work till 5 or 6 and the school is done at 2:45? You know, you're relying on people to pick up your kid for you, or some fun club after school that they're part of in order to keep them being learning and enriched until you can pick them up. Kids in traditional school have a similar problem to homeschool kids.
Absolutely.
It's just a longer period of time.
It is. And when they're younger, it's a harder thing to do. You know, sending them to daycare is a lot easier than asking a grandparent to care for a toddler for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But there are ways to make it work if that's what you need to do. And if you're working and can afford the daycare offsets while they're little, maybe that's an option. That's not one that we love.
Right.
But it's just, there's ways to make it work. As they get older, it continues to get easier. I feel like my daughter could basically
this whole
fill her
summer
days.
I've not done much other than
you could have been working full time at home while they were here. Yep, I agree. And then of course the support isn't just for you and your ability to work during working hours or for care for the kids, but you have to have some time for yourself. It's hard enough to be a homeschooling mom. It's hard enough to be a working parent, let alone trying to do both. And so you need to have some time for yourself. So use that support system if you can to give you time to reset and recharge. If you need to rearrange your own schedule to be able to go to bed early in order to do that, or to have a quiet hour for yourself between 9 and 10 p.m., quiet hour, then I will hang with my spouse.
Yeah, and it could be an early bedtime for the kids.
Yes.
And they can work on their homework in their bed.
Right. Read their books, whatever it is. You know, it's important that you have support for your own time and your own mental health.
Yeah.
And finally, we're moving on to customization. Homeschool can be customized.
Yeah.
This is the beauty of it. And even us moms who aren't working full time, we customize the education to fit what we need it to be. this can be done in many different ways. One of them is find a curriculum that fits. Find
Or like the one that is easy to pick up for someone else to pick up wherever you left off.
Exactly. So there's open and go curriculums. They provide a schedule, a lesson plan, and all the materials that you need. And so you only have to open it up that day. You don't have to prep it in advance. You don't have to memorize a script if that's the case. You don't have to get all the supplies. It's open and go. It literally is what it's called. So find curriculums that are that way. We'll list a few in our show notes for you if you need some examples of open and go. We don't use them, so they're not on the forefront of my brain, but I'll list a few for you. Online curriculum. Again, as your kids get older, this is an easier tool to use, but there are plenty of online curriculums for younger kids as well that they just may need some assistance with. So if your kids can manage technology and devices, online curriculum is wonderful. It grades their work. It provides you with assessments on how they're doing. You can put in assignments for them depending on what type of online program you're using. And so you know what they're working on. You have the lesson plans ready for them.
That's a great option for kids who love to be on a computer. Yes. So I have one child who loves it. So she's doing all the computer programs that our charter school provides. She'll spend hours on that. Then she wants to make a movie with her iPad. Then she wants to edit the movie. Then she'll want to do Bitsbox, which is the coding. She could spend a whole day on her computer getting wonderful experiences. I don't want that much screen time for her.
Right.
But I do value the skills she's developing in this technology-driven
world.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just up to the values in your own home. I agree. If they're doing productive things and learning doesn't have to be synonymous with academic either. But things that they're learning and growing with, I think that you can find a healthy balance for the amount of times they're on screens and devices. Unschool. This means different things to different people, but look into it. See if an unschooling educational philosophy might fit your life. Maybe you let your kids lead a little more in their learning. Maybe it means a little more screen time. Maybe it means allowing them to go down a pathway of just one subject for a few months at a time, an entire school year.
Right.
Customizable education is such a big thing, and you can do with it what you want.
And think of the skill you're helping them to develop, whether it's unschooling or just giving them freedom to pursue an interest. They're literally taking ownership over their education, and that autonomy will benefit them all the rest of their life.
Absolutely. Try block or loop scheduling. If you only have small windows in which you can sit down with your kids, then consider cycling through a subject a day, not every subject every day. So pick a subject, and then maybe you stick to that subject for a day, you do a different subject the next day, or maybe you stick with a subject for an entire week or month. If you have a lot to do and it would be better to have continuous touching on that subject, stick with it.
So that's what I'm trying this year, is I'm going to take the books that I like, the well-ordered language or the fables, the writing and rhetoric. I tend to just do little bits.
Right.
And then they don't get the full picture. And then it's like, 2 months have gone by. Let's circle back and finish this little. And it's like, no, actually, I'm going to just say we're doing this book until it's done.
Right.
Before we try and space it out with something else. Let's just do the whole book. Let's get the full experience. And so that would be a big kind of block for me to try to. It's like almost treating it like a unit study. Let's develop this skill, and then we're done with that for the year, and we'll move on to the next thing.
Exactly. There's no rules saying you can't do that. So do what works for you. Independent time. Have educational materials that you know your children can explore on their own. In my house, it's a bunch of reference books and activity books. We love the Usborne activity books, and there's some on every subject.
And they have the Never Get Bored for Usborne, so it's Never Get Bored Outside, Never Get Bored. It's so many different versions.
Exactly.
And subscription boxes, especially when my kids were little. Now they're not getting used up as frequently, but the Kiwi Crate, the Tinker Crate, the Doodle Crates.
Many of them they can do during their own independent time.
Yeah. As long as they're on the older end of the spectrum of the ages. So if they're if it's ages 6 to 8, you want to give it to your 8 or 9-year-old.
Right.
And then they don't need your help.
Exactly. So those are my 3 main things is we think the best ways to ensure a successful homeschool and working schedule would be flexibility, support, and customization. Remembering that you have the ability to do those things can go a long way.
And you say all this from experience, which you'll share, but also because we have a number of working moms in our co-op. It's not just someone way over there that we heard about. It's people we interact with on a regular basis who have their own businesses or who full-time lawyer or
well, let's talk about that full-time lawyer. We asked her a couple years ago if she had tips and advice for other working moms. How do you do it? She works a full-time schedule while homeschooling her kids, and it's one of those,
and they're
little, and it's a 9 to 5 schedule. It's not a work when she wants to schedule, but she has some flexibility within that. So she says these 5 things. 1, know your child's needs. As we said, customize what you're doing. Make it work for you and your family. 2, she says, organize. So when I was talking about flexibility, if you're working at home, set schedules, this is what she's talking about. Know what your schedule for the day is. Help the kids with that. Have routines that they can rely on. They know when it's okay to come to you. They know what it means when you're on the phone, that it's absolutely not okay to come and get your attention. Set routines, organize everything. Know what your co-op year is going to look like in advance, so you know not to schedule an important meeting on a co-op day. Schedule it the day before, wherever you have control to do that, or know that your spouse might be able to take your kids to co-op day, or the friend is going to pick them up that day. If you know what's happening because you're running an organized life, you can find success. 3, use screen time. So whether you're using it for educational programs, for curriculum, or just for their own independent interests, screen time's okay. It may not be your favorite thing. It may not be for everybody. But if you're talking long blocks of time where you need your kids to just be entertained, and
I do that, and I'm not even working. And here's the thing, the screen time, what you can do is you can curate, I love saying that word, you can curate YouTube educational videos. You can make a list of the contextual information they need to know for a read aloud that you're doing at night, and they can watch those things. You could do art lessons that way. The Mo Willems has his series of like 14 art lessons. So there's the Mr. DeMeos, there's all these different YouTubers that we know and love and have experienced and appreciate the Operation Ouch. And you can have certain days they get certain ones, or they have a course of study for each day. And my kids would love to have their days.
It doesn't have to be Minecraft all day. It can be Minecraft for 30 minutes. Teach them to self-regulate, to self-discipline also. Give them a schedule. Okay, set a timer. You can play Minecraft for this long. If you're able to follow up or trust your kids, that's all going to be different for each family, of course. But I think there's ways to do that. You can't just be on Netflix for 6 hours. Here's the different options that you have. Number 4, she says, understand that you will have good days and bad days. You have to give yourself some grace. It's not all going to be easy, but hopefully you do have the good days in there to show you that you can do it. It's just you're in it for the long haul. Here's what you got to do. So just be good to yourself. Number 5, take time for yourself to refresh for the next day. It's a lot to put in an 8-hour workday and to homeschool your kids and to be a mom and a wife. It's a lot. And a friend. It's a lot. So make sure you set aside time for yourself. Those are her advice, and I think those are amazing things, and we see it in her. And so we know that she's found success. And again, go ahead.
And we have met her at a trampoline park on a regular basis, and I'll say, okay, I'm going to work on my stuff that I want to work on, and you can work. And she's sitting there working away while her kids are getting to jump for 2 hours.
Exactly.
And I know she takes them there a lot. So finding those ways that she can still work while they're getting out and even active, not even just being at home.
For sure. So she has that flexibility, and she gave us this advice 2 years ago.
Right.
So I have to say it's still working. She's still a part of our coop group. She's still successfully homeschooling her kids. I feel like she's become even more confident.
Yeah.
Hopefully
And her
she's
kids are
not
only
listening, but
oh,
she
her
might
kids-
be.
Her kids are only 6 and 8 years old. So
Right.
imagine 2 years ago, it was a 4 and a 6-year-old.
Right. So that's when she wrote all these things.
Yeah.
And I have to imagine there's parts of it that have gotten easier. Maybe not everything, or it's just hard in different ways. So we should probably do a check-in with her.
Yeah.
And then there's my situation. My work is extremely part-time. I've been working anywhere from 12 to about 20 hours over the last 6 years. This is
Per week?
Per week, sorry. 12 to 20 hours per week over the last 6 years. This year, I'm working less. It's about 10 hours, I think. So that's not a lot for sure. It's not too much to intervene with my homeschooling, but it does require some flexibility. As you know, as a good friend of mine, it affects a lot of my life because it's the commute as well. It's the energy level that I put into my job as a dance teacher.
Yeah.
It takes a lot out of me. I'm not just able to get off of work and be free to go and hang out or do a podcast. So it affects all the other things that I do in my life. But I've been able to find ways to make it work, primarily because my kids are welcome when I teach, assuming they can be well behaved while I'm teaching. They're welcome to come with me to hang out in the studios. So my work life is very flexible in that way. I take it just a school year at a time. If I need to make a big change, I do. I dropped teaching on Fridays. It was too much. It limited our ability to go camping for the weekend. And then it left me feeling like I had to do academics
All the other days.
all the other days because I didn't have time to do it on Fridays. And it was rough. And we're going to miss the time we spent with our cousins because we had Cousin Tuesday and Friday the last several years. So we're going to mourn them a little bit. But it's all a season, and I don't miss it. Today is a Friday that we're filming this, and we had the flexibility because I have nothing scheduled now.
Yeah.
So this is my flex day for real. It's not a coop group day in most cases, and so now I can say yes to something, or we can just be at home and not have anything else on the calendar for the whole day.
You know, and I don't know how this is going to be received, but you have set up your life where you're not absolutely dependent on you having 20 hours of work a week.
No,
and I know
it's true.
Not everyone has that luxury.
Yes.
But we forego really nice vacations, even though we get to go on plenty of amazing things.
Totally.
But we forego stuff in order to have this life. I remember telling my husband years ago, before we had kids, if it means we need to live in a 1-bedroom apartment and not do anything, if I can homeschool, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And knowing that that's hard and that's not my personality type, because I love to buy things and go places.
You're a little bit of a spender.
Yeah. So knowing that about myself though, I still was like, I will happily give up what I need to in order to do that. And so that's also something to take a look at. Like, where can I save money?
Right.
If homeschooling is that important to me and I don't have a flexible option, is there an option to rely, if there's 2 of you working, to rely on one? And how can I make that happen? And it's not always possible because there's a lot of single parents out there.
Exactly. And I think that gets to the bottom line here is that if you don't have a flexible job, if you can't make your budget work without the rigid job that you have, and you don't have childcare and support, it just might not work. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Of course, public school is fine for most people.
Yeah.
You know, it's fine. It's just not what we're about. And we want to encourage you to try. With the availability of online and remote jobs these days, it seems like there shouldn't be as many barriers to it. If you need to make it a specific income level, I think that's a huge factor for what you're able to do, because some of the online jobs just won't pay you a $60,000 a year salary. It's just not going to happen. But with the right skill set or the right determination, you might find something that will.
Yeah.
It might take maybe a 2-semester class to get like medical billing or coding. And I know that's a job you can do from home nowadays.
One of our co-op moms welds in the evening, and she doesn't seem like a welder to me.
Right. Yeah. It's a family business, and it's something that she does. And
Yeah.
it's awesome.
It's to
And
bring
then
in some extra income.
we only really talked about my actual paying part-time job, but it's not like we don't put any work into the Coop homeschool.
Right.
We put hours a week into the Coop homeschool, and we manage that between working in the evenings, on weekends, and
we run a co-op as well.
Right.
And that's a lot more hours than just putting on an event.
Right. We don't just show up and that's what we put into it. We put, especially the end and beginning of the co-op year, we put in a ton of administrative
I would say
hours.
at least 100 hours a year we put in towards
In total, yeah. Which I would say probably 60 to 70% is in this last like 3-month window, because it's important to us and we value what it gives our kids and serving our group in this way.
Yeah.
And so it's fine, but it is work. And so that's the thing too, is you're going to have your non-paying work that you have to factor into your life as well.
Yeah.
It's all important. All right. Are you ready?
Yes.
It's time for the
Coop Q&A.
where we answer your questions. Are you ready for the question, Mandy?
Yes.
Is homeschooling truly an at your own or their own pace experience? I'm only able to devote half an hour to 1 hour a day during the week to schooling. Is that enough?
Oh. Well, it depends on the age, I would say.
Sure. That's your initial response. Do you have any follow-ups to that, or would you like me to share my answer and you can come back to it?
Let's share your answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I said yes. Homeschooling should be customized and at the pace of the child and family. So we already covered that, and I firmly believe that. We believe learning is a lifelong adventure and isn't confined to specific times of day or years of our lives. A half hour to an hour a day is definitely enough time. You get to decide what's most important for you to utilize that time for, whether it's instruction, for read alouds, for reviewing independent work.
And if you're organized.
If you're organized.
If you're not organized, that half an hour, you're not going to get much.
Yeah. If you have to review the teacher notes before you even start,
you can't count that in a half an hour. Yeah.
And as we said above about customizing, consider focusing on just one subject during that time and then rotating that subject on whatever schedule you want, daily, weekly, or monthly. Consider a unit study.
Yeah.
A study on a single topic that pulls in multiple subject areas.
We love unit studies.
Gather Round is our favorite.
Yeah.
Check them out. They have it on so many wonderful
And
topics.
the script is there.
Yep.
YouTube options are there. Book option, enrichment options for read alouds are there.
Right.
All in that same spot.
So there's times for you guys to do things together, and then they can certainly work on some of the work by themselves or do the enriching activities on their own.
Yeah.
Do you have any follow-ups now?
I do because the reason I point out the age is my youngest would love to spend more time.
Yes.
So a half an hour with someone like her would not be enough. Like it would break her little heart if I only showed her 30 minutes and then tried to keep her at bay for 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to gauge that upon your child and make sure you delegate the time that you have. So let's say you have an hour and a half. Maybe one child will get 15 to 20 minutes. Another child gets 10. And then the child that needs a lot will get a lot more.
Right.
Or figure out how can you play a game together and then direct your older kids. But
Well, you know what struck me about this question is it made me think a half hour to 1 hour is all you have in your entire day and your weekends. This is where the flexibility comes in. I can see during a 9 to 5 hour window, maybe you only have a half hour to an hour.
But
is that all you have? I mean, maybe they do work in the evening and, I don't know what the situation is. This person didn't provide any more when they asked the question, but I just thought that was interesting. Because if that's all you have every single day, that's not a lot of time that you even have as a family.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's not enough time to parent your child.
Right.
And now if you're a single parent and that's the only time they're getting with you and that's all you can do, it's all you can do. But
absolutely.
I don't know that I would, if I only had 30 minutes to 90 minutes a day with my children, I don't know that I would want that to be all about homeschooling. I'd want to just, although homeschooling is parenting, but I wouldn't want to be trying to make them do math.
Exactly.
I'd want it to be an intentional bonding time.
Absolutely.
And so then you would definitely have to second guess. I'm thinking this person is probably thinking during the workday.
Yep, I am too.
And like you said, if it's just work, you don't worry about that. Your homeschooling can be for 2 to 3 hours from 4:30 to 7:30.
Right. So then I would say in this half hour to an hour, use that to sit and be with your child to break up the time that you're unavailable, and then utilize your longer stretches of time for other subject areas.
Yeah, do your joke book with them and their question of the day, and do your what made them smile today during that time. Yeah.
Love it. Thanks for listening. We love your support. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast, leave a rating and review to let us know how we're doing, and share our podcast with your friends who need a little community, humility, and joyful fun in homeschooling.